test it by putting your head down and looking on either direction and seeing if you can see light. You can see light when it's not far enough. So make sure the holes are in. It's going to go in those holes. Then this thing holds it in place while I whack it. It's far enough. Whack her back. I don't need any leg sockets on the upper. Now I have a top and a bottom that are identical. I'm always finding, I always do it in the same order. Remember on the other one we did our right, but it would actually be the cabinet's left side. Always first down, bottom to you. I get on an upper, these don't matter which is top, which is bottom. You want always the grooves in. You wouldn't want to do that, because then your back wouldn't slide in there. So now this thing stays there. This is one of the trickier ones because you didn't have a little leg socket to hold it at a 90 degree. So you have to be gently tap it in, get those the same. You have 3/4 of an inch to work with. Probably just do 2 on an upper. And you always do this flip. So you go side, bottom, back, side. Side, bottom, flip it. Side, bottom, flip, back, side. Like that. Slide this in. Now this is the most important one here because it hides both sides. And this back is what's going to ensure that the cabinet is square. If it's not square, then the assembler is going to cuss a lot because it's going to screw crown up, it's going to screw everything up. So what could happen when you staple this back on is you could be a little bit off. Can you get your head over here and make sure you know what I'm talking about? See, that looks fine right there, right? You could staple that in, you could pull that in and staple that on. That would be out of square. Because you got it. What you do is you take your back stapler, which is this one, and hit it. See how it keeps going? Look at that. As soon as it stops, that means it's hitting right down here. Right? You can almost not even need to worry about holding that. You can just still, right? It can't go anymore. It's hitting that corner. Now I know I'm flush down here, and I know I'm hitting that side right there. So that's far enough down. Now I just pull the back in. Now I know I'm square. Right? But you don't have any visual cue for that. It's got to be by feel. Now this thing, if you let go, will probably fall. Wider ones will, maybe not this one. You want to make sure that you remember your most important side is here, the front. Generally don't want to staple like this. There's a higher chance that your nail will blow out. If you go like this, it's a less chance. Now pull your back in, staple in there. If you're building this with 2 people, you could almost kind of, somebody could have the next one ready, the next piece, so one person's holding the stapler in their hand, the other's setting all the parts. What you have a tendency to do is let this cart get away from you and you start putting all your tools down on the table. I'd rather you not develop that habit if you can help it. It starts with 1 tool and ends up with 10. Okay, now, some people, if you're building them all by yourself, I'd go ahead and screw this side, okay, because it'll save you 1 additional flip on the end. But since we're building in such a way that we want other people to come behind us that maybe have less skill and screw in, then just leave it and just staple them all together and then call somebody to come and screw them. I'm going to pretend that that's going to happen because you guys are going to come behind me. And screw them later. Okay. Now we just do the last part of the back. This one's irrelevant because the other corner already locked us in square. This is just attaching the back to the piece. About every 4 inches is kind of the rule of thumb. Doesn't really matter at all. If you were totally done with this, you'd lift it up and sit it on its top. This cabinet is now upside down. See this right here? That would be bad but passable. You don't really want that much of a gap there. So what I should have done is knocked it with a mallet before I set the screw in there. But that is passable. We flip it upside down. Here's another way, let's see, to know tops and bottoms. When we talked about knowing the tops and bottoms of a side. On an upper cabinet, they're always going to edge band the bottom, right? Because this upper cabinet is going to be sitting up here like this, and when you look underneath it, you don't want to see the particle board. But that's also why we flip it upside down, because we don't want this to be scratched. So when we transport it, when we slide it here, oh, you see that? That piece was long, and now when we slide it, it's bending on us. It's kind of annoying. That edge bender is not cutting it well. Actually, shoot it from an angle like this, you can see it a little better why it's. So a base cabinet, so I guess, you know, we're trying to find an easy way for you to know what the top and the bottom is because of how important it is to put them together correctly. A base cabinet, the top will always be edge banded, and an upper cabinet, the bottom will always be edge banded. It's always opposite what you think. Is that enough for you to get going for a while?